Simon Sinek is one of the world's greatest public speakers, and in this video, I am going to break down one of the most popular TED Talks of all time and help you understand what makes it so great. Now, I will say for this video, I wanted to show you real-time clips from Simon's presentation, and perhaps I made the mistake of asking permission. I should have just begged for forgiveness, perhaps, but I reached out to TED and asked them if I could use clips from this video, and they actually declined my request, which was too bad. But we're still going to do this video. We're still going to work around it. So I've included timestamps for each example I give throughout the video. So you can click on the links in the show notes, watch that clip, and you will know exactly what I am referring to. Now, for those of you who have seen this TED Talk in its entirety, and I encourage you to watch the TED Talk as part of this video, you will know that it's not a great TED Talk because of the video quality or the audio quality. In fact, the microphone is so bad that at one point Simon actually has to switch microphones mid-presentation. But it's Simon's structure, his style, and there's so many other elements that make this a great speech. The first thing Simon does really well is the introduction. There's a timestamp below in the show notes that will show you that introduction. But he asks a powerful question. How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when people are able to achieve things that defy all assumptions? This is what you want to do with the first words that come out of your mouth on stage. You want to ask a thought-provoking question, or give a powerful statement, or jump right into a story. Many speakers make the mistake of doing the formal introductions. Hey there, for everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Wade. This is unnecessary information. Your audience will glaze over it. Instead, you want to jump right in to the content, and that is what Simon does with his introduction. Shortly after his introduction, Simon gives relatable examples. He talks about Apple, he talks about Martin Luther King, and he talks about the Wright brothers. And then he pauses for effect, and then he speeds up. And this is a theme throughout Simon's speech, is the vocal variety and the pace of which he speaks brings in the audience because it adjusts depending on what he's talking about. He speeds up when he wants to keep the audience thinking on their feet, and then he slows down when he wants a point to really resonate with the audience. The next timestamp you'll see below is the powerful statement that Simon gives. He says, as it turns out, there's a pattern, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And then he moves to his visual aid, which is a flip chart where he dives into this whole thesis. But that powerful statement draws the audience in right off the bat. They've gotten a powerful question, they've got relatable examples that they know they can understand easily, and then a powerful statement that is opposite, contrary to everything they've learned before. So within the first minute or 2 minutes of Simon's speech, he has drawn the audience in because they know they are about to learn something profound. The next thing that makes this TED Talk so great is the visuals, and they're nothing fancy. There are some public speakers out there that have amazing videos flying behind them or brilliant photographs. But Simon has a simple flip chart with a few circles, and yet it is so powerful because as he's talking and discussing the why, he's able to show how it relates with the circles and drawing arrows, and that makes it really powerful and easy for the audience to understand. I really think that this speech would have had far less impact if it didn't have that simple flip chart with Simon's messy circles and perhaps substandard artistic abilities. But the visuals are simple and it draws us in as an audience and we can understand his message. One of my favorite things about this TED Talk is the structure. It is very simple and it is very effective. There are 5 elements to the speech that Simon gives. First, it's the introduction. It's that powerful question that makes us think, and then it's the 3 relatable ideas that we know are going to follow in the speech. He talks about Apple, he talks about Martin Luther King, and he talks about the Wright brothers. Each of those branches has a bigger part, which he will get to, but the introduction is giving the audience that framework. Then he dives into each. Apple, he has the flip chart and he's showing the path, the why, the how, the what, showing how it interlinks within those circles. He then uses that visual diagram to explain the Wright brothers story as well. So if the beginning is the introduction, the second point is Apple, the third is Wright brothers. On the fourth point, Simon also introduces Martin Luther King's story, and the conclusion is wrapping all of this together. It is a very well-structured speech with 5 branches, and this is what I suggest for you. If you are struggling with how to build a speech, aim for 5 things. Your introduction and your conclusion, that's 2 out of the way. Now you have 3 main points. If that's a wedding speech, maybe that's a story about the person who's getting married. Perhaps that's their great qualities. And the third branch would be the person that they're marrying. If it's a work presentation, perhaps the first branch is data about whatever you're talking about. The second part is a relatable story that puts that data into perspective. And the third is future projections. I really like this idea of 5 main points to a speech. And as you can see, one of the best TED Talks that's out there utilized this structure. I talked about pacing earlier, and I've linked down to a great pacing example from this speech. And Simon does this expertly. And another thing you see with his pacing is when he injects humor. From time to time, although this is not an overly funny speech, he will drop in a little bit of humor and then he'll pause. And you can see the audience reaction. This is a powerful thing you can do in any speech you deliver, is introducing the pause after injecting some humor. The final thing Simon did really well in this speech, which is also linked to in the show notes, is dealing with when something goes wrong. I mentioned at the beginning the audio wasn't perfect, and partway through the speech, somebody comes up and gives Simon another microphone. But this doesn't throw him off, which is saying a lot, because it's tough when we're delivering a presentation and something happens that we're not expecting. It can derail us. But Simon simply grabs the new microphone, transitions, and never loses his cadence. And this is an expert skill. If something goes wrong, somebody drops and breaks a glass, or a door slams, or somebody's phone goes off. Things like this happen when we give presentations from time to time, and you have 2 choices. You can do as Simon did and ignore the distraction and keep going with your speech, or you can call it out. You can mention it, hopefully without embarrassing anyone, but if everyone has noticed a distraction, you can try to weave that into your speech somehow. Either way, that is how professionals deal with distractions, and Simon did a great job in this speech. It's hard for me to criticize one of the greatest TED Talks of all time, but I do think there's one way Simon Sinek could have made his TED Talk that is so famous a little bit better, and that is this incredible moment when he's talking about the Wright brothers, and he has the audience's attention. And if you listen carefully, you can actually hear a plane outside the venue. This would have been a great opportunity for Simon to recognize that as he's talking about the Wright brothers, what are the chances you can actually hear a plane? He could have incorporated that into his presentation, been aware of it, mentioned it, and somehow tied it in. And that would have been so incredibly powerful. This speech doesn't need any more improvement. It's one of the greatest TED Talks of all time, but that is one way it could have been a little bit better. I hope this video on analyzing one of the greatest TED Talks of all time was helpful. I do apologize that I wasn't able to share the actual clips with you. I want to respect TED's copyright policy on this. Whether I agree with it or not, I think it's helpful to have educational pieces that way. But this makeshift solution of the links below, I hope, was helpful for you. Please let me know if it was, or what your thoughts are after going and checking out Simon Sinek's TED Talk. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to my channel and check out this video that is popping up right now, because this is the one I talked about earlier about hooking your audience, and it is a profound way to improve any speech